What's going on there, Mecha Army? Welcome to the Child of Mecha live stream. I am your host, Tim, the one and only Child of Mecha. Welcome. It's Monday. We're back at it again. Monday the 13th. Ugh. Anyway, let's get comfortable now, shall we? We're going to continue working on this SD build-off. We got a lot done this weekend, so I got a lot of stuff I got to show you, kind of bring you up to speed. All that good stuff. So, strap in, get ready. Let's go. Before we do that, if you want one of these amazing, look at that. Yeah, Mecha hats. Go get you one, www.childofmecha.com. Hit the store button up at the top. You will find this hat, many more shirts, prints, all sorts of other good stuff. Go load up. I hear they make great stimulus check money presents. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, if you are interested in any of the tools and materials that we are going to be working with here today, there is an Amazon link somewhere down yonder here on Twitch and YouTube, that side. Over here if you're watching on Facebook. Go load up on that stuff. I get a little bit of a commission based off of stuff that you buy, but it doesn't increase the cost for you. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I swear by all of it. Tools, materials, books for inspiration. Gear for streaming if you want to get into that right now, because that is the big thing, obviously. So go get you some. And then last but not least, if you are in the market for kits and paints and accessories and tools and all sorts of other good stuff, especially Mecha Decals sheets 1 and 2, those are in stock and shipping now. Hit up our good friends right down here. USA Gundam Store. Adam and the fine folks down there will definitely have what you need. Now, let's get caught up to speed with what we've gotten done this weekend, because there's a lot to go over, because I got a lot done. All right. So, first and foremost, let's get rid of this. Put that off to the side, and then let's go camera 2. Hey now. Robert Cottrell, he's over there on the Mecha Army Facebook group. If you're not a member yet, go hit that up. He says, hey Tim. Robert, what's up, man? Thank you for watching, as always. Wilson Alanea is over there on Facebook as well. He says, what's up? I'm not used to listening to your stream while working on my builds. Keeps me awake. That's the kind of the plan, right? Hell yeah. But thank you for watching, Wilson. If you guys aren't following Wilson, shoot, what's Wilson's Facebook page? Wilson PL Arts. Wilson, is that... Wilson, I hope that's your right page, man. Because, like, you want to talk about, like, a master at weathering? Wilson is definitely that dude. Yeah, he's that dude. So, Woody's over there, Mr. Woody Bishop, he's over there on the Mecha Army Facebook group. He says, got my copy of Nothing But Mech today. Great inspiration. Dude, well, there's 4. Which one did you get, Woody? Because, like, they're all really, really good. But if I had to choose my favorite, it's number 4. Yeah, like, it's insanely a good book. Okay, cool. WilsonPL.art. So go check him out on Facebook. Seriously. Go follow Wilson. Like, do it right now. I don't even care. Woody says he got number 3 on the Nothing But Mech series. Hey, still a good one. Still a good one. Oh, he says he already has 4. So yeah, 4 I think is probably my favorite. 1, which is super hard to get right now, is really, really good too. I mean, honestly, they're all really good, and they're all kind of like right there neck and neck. But number 4 is the biggest one, and that was their finale book. There's not going to be any more, unfortunately. But yeah, the Nothing But Mech series is awesome. Yeah, I highly, highly, highly recommend that series, because that's I think the series that kind of really got me into that art book thing, you know, kind of path, and just Super good. Super good. All right, so let's get caught up, like I said, with where we were, where we've gotten done this weekend. Now, I went ahead and started on some things without you guys. Hope you don't mind, but if you do, too bad. Here's the front skirts, right? Those two there, and then the crotch piece, right there. So did a little bit of scribing, and did a little plating, did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? So with the front crotch piece here, you can see we kind of put in some a box scribe, outline scribed this little raised detail, a little bit of floating notch there. Outline scribed this center piece. These two lines were not there originally. Still a little bit of work to do. I think I want to add a little something there, maybe just a simple little floating notch or something like that right there in the middle. But as you can see, that's coming along real good. I like the progress on that. The front skirts still have work to do, but all I was able to get done this weekend, because these were the last parts that I actually worked on, was this little kind of raised detail right here, right? Just tacked on 3/4 millimeter strip onto there, beveled that down. That looks really, really nice. Filled that all the gaps in with super glue and everything. Did a little notch here right on the side, and then outline scribe the whole thing. And you got a matching set. I think it looks really good. It's all super, super smooth. And yeah, I think it just kind of fits the look of what we're going for, you know? So really good stuff there. And then for the most part, what I was doing this weekend was just duplicating the details that we've already gone over, right? Excuse me. So, like the little, this is the lower shoulder piece that we did here. Focus. There we go. You know, with the little micro panels and stuff like that, the bump out and all that. So I started doing that on the other shoulder bits here. So this is kind of a corresponding one. So you can see kind of matchy-matchy there. So that's all starting to come together. And then what I started to do, which we'll be working on today, is these are the kind of knee little units here, right? So this top part, just a nice little simple scribe line on the side, one there on the top with a little horizontal notch wrapped around there. And then outline scribed this kind of long piece on the underside here, and then right down here at the bottom, this was kind of a little bit of a tougher situation, simply because my 1mm chisel is kind of but 1mm line, yeah, 1mm straight down the middle there, and then you can see we added just a little bit of styrene square rod right there in the middle of that, just to give it a little flavor and stuff like that. So we'll start working on that here in just a few minutes, but there's still some things that I kind of wanted to show you with what we've gotten done thus far, right? Let's see. Robert Cottrell says, "Hey Wilson, the god of weathering." Dude, he kind of is, man. He's really, really good. Woody says, that sucks. Oh, yeah, because there's not going to be any more nothing but mech books. I know. It does suck. It really does. But, you know, the guys that did the book, they said they, you know, kind of ran their course. They're going to move on to other books and stuff like that. So, fear not. All right, so for this next one, we're going to need to get zoomed all the way out, because I started laminating the base for this little SD, right? So here's the, let's see if we can even fit this in the screen here. The big boy. It isn't even that big, honestly. This is only, I think this is 8 wide, or no, like, it might be 7 wide, I think, and then this is 1 foot long, so 7 by 12 basically, and it's still got dust and crap on it from the table saw and all that good stuff. But, and then you've got this back piece here, which basically just fits on the back, and it's going to be like this, you know, this L-shaped here. And what'll happen is I'll have like a clear acrylic rod coming up, and the unicorn will be obviously facing outwards. And what I'm thinking is painting this kind of like a nice space motif, right? With, you know, basically blacks, you know, and navies and stuff like that as kind of the background, little speckles of stars and stuff like that. And then what I think I might do is paint in on the background kind of the thruster trails, right? And I think that'll probably look kind of neat. So who knows if I can pull it off or not, but hey, we got to get this thing completely laminated first. We got to get the plastic around the sides and everything, get it all smoothed out, you know, seamed and all of that stuff. And same thing with the base, and then obviously with beveling this thing on both sides and beveling this on the top here, there's unfortunately going to be a gap that I'm going to have to fill. You can kind of see, it's obviously the camera is too close to focus, but there's a gap right here that I'm going to have to fill with some epoxy putty before I lay down any of the rest of the plastic on this. So overall, very, very productive weekend. And then I've got one more thing to show you before we move on. One more thing. And let's get zoomed in right there. And this is kind of, it's one of those things where you have a necessity for something, but then you kind of just make your own tools, right? Now, obviously, you guys have seen me use these sanding blocks and everything, right? These are actually really great sanding blocks. These are acrylic. These are by Hobby Mate in Singapore. I got these as a free add-on when I ordered my copy of Scratch Build Revolution from them years and years ago. So they threw this in with a few other goodies and stuff like that, and I've actually been using these ever since. These are great. And these are just, you know, they're cut acrylic or acrylic sheet, and you know, they're probably maybe 4 inches long by about 1 inch wide, and they're really, really good, right? Now, the only issue that I have with these is that they tend to have just a little flex like that, right? And when you want a true flat surface, and it's either too big or too small to put against the grinding plate, you know, our Minishima grinding plate, well, then what do? Right? So what I did was, while I was outside cutting the MDF and shaping that and everything, I went ahead and cut a bunch of these right here. Bunch of little blocks of MDF, and these are 3 inches long. These are 1/4 inch thick, and these are 1 3/8 wide this way, right? So they're really kind of a nice size. You know, they're obviously a little shorter than the Hobby Mate, you know, sanding blocks, but also a little fatter this way. But then also probably at least twice as thick, right? So, and if you guys know anything about MDF, this is extremely stable stuff. Unless you get it wet, then it just soaks it up like a sponge, and then you're SOL. But we're not going to be wet sanding with these. But even if we were, I think we'd probably be pretty safe, because here are the ones that I made over the weekend here. Now, simple to make, and I'm going to put out a tutorial on these, but as you can see, these have, you can see kind of a bit of a sheen to them, right? So, and these are insanely smoother than your, and they have a little bit of a different look than, say, this one, right? So this is a completely raw piece of MDF, right? These, I went ahead and coated in super glue. Yeah, I coated these in super glue. Just a very thin coat. I just laid down a couple beads of super glue on each surface, and then just took a scrap piece of plastic and then just kind of smoothed those out, right? Spreading out the super glue evenly across the surface. When the super glue cured and penetrated into the MDF, it not only made the surface just super hard, it also gave me an opportunity to sand this down completely smooth, kind of round over, you know, the grippy sides, keep the top sides nice and sharp and everything, and laid down 3 strips of double-sided tape, pop this onto a sheet of sandpaper, bada boom, bada bing, and now I've got a really nice, very rigid sanding block. So I got 2 for right now, 400 and 600. These are normally the 2 grits of sandpaper that I use the most, so no brainer, right? But very good stuff, and I've obviously been using the 600 a lot here over the course of the weekend, but very easy to make. You know, it just takes a little bit of time, especially with you know, spreading out the super glue, letting that cure, and then also sanding these down really nice and smooth. And these are just sanded down to about a 600. I just used, you know, some bits of, you know, 400 and 600 to get this nice and smooth. And man, these are great. And I'm going to be definitely making a few more. Obviously, with my my little blanks here, I've got about, what, I got 6 here, so I don't even know if I'm going to use all of them, honestly. I might work my way up to about 1,000, but then after that, it's kind of pointless, because then you're going to go and wet sand from there, right? So, yeah, good stuff. Let's get caught up in the chat before we get to work, though. All right, let's do this, because I know a few people got some questions. Yeah, Commissar Stanley, he says, oh, wait a minute. Hey, almost forgot of that. He says, is there any way to fix that? It looks like, let me see here. Stanley, it looks like the first part of your question got cut off, because all I see is question blank and then your continuation. But he says, is there any way to fix that? Any painting techniques or tricks to make it not look incomplete? What can I do to really bring it to life without scuffing it up from... Yeah, we missed the context on that. Stanley, give us a repeat in the chat, because, like I said, we lost the beginning parts of that. Let's see. Superset 5, how is everyone? My 2 sheets of Mecha Decals came in the mail today. Yeah, thank you, man. Awesome. Good, very good stuff. Ranger Chris has a question. If we could get the button reloaded. There we go. Hey-o. Let's see. Ranger Chris says, what is the process for laminating? And what I'm assuming is that he's talking about the bases, right? So, whoa, we're super zoomed in, not super zoomed, but very much zoomed into that. So, it's actually pretty simple. It's actually pretty simple. I use MDF for all of my bases, like every single one. Hummingbird, Airdrop, the simple one that we're making for the Blue Destiny, the unfinished Ozymandias, all of them are MDF, every single one, like clockwork. MDF is super, super stable, and it's inexpensive, and it's great to take shapes like this, right? The bevels and everything. So that's why I use MDF as your solid core. It's nice and heavy and all of that. Now, so basically you cut your MDF to your desired shape, right? I figured out the width and height and everything, and it comes in a standard, at least in the US, it comes in a standard 3/4 inch, half inch, half inch, 1/4, and then I think in some places you can even get like 1/8 inch sheets of MDF. So what I had and did is I cut this on my table saw, and you can do it with a regular hand saw or just a handheld circular saw. Went ahead, cut it to my desired dimensions and everything. Took it over to my miter saw, chopped the corners off, and kind of got my blank, if you will. And then to get this to stick on here, this really, really large surface, here, let me grab the stuff that I used. So I go to like Home Depot and or Lowe's or hardware store basically, and I get this stuff right here. This is 3M, and it's freaking hard to see on the screen, right? But it says high strength 90. This is contact adhesive, and this is just a spray adhesive. This is the stuff that professionals use to lay down laminate countertops and stuff like that, like the stuff that goes on top of the particle board and all that for kind of inexpensive countertops. So you spray that on the MDF, you spray that again on the backside of the plastic, and you let that become kind of tacky, and lay down your sheet of plastic over this. And mind you, you want the plastic to overhang on all sides so you can trim it back perfectly. And then you just put like put some books on this or something flat and just kind of press this down. Leave it for a few hours to let that contact adhesive fully cure. And then this isn't going anywhere. This isn't coming up at all. Now for the sides, obviously I have a router table. But you can do this with a handheld router or whatever. But bevel those sides on the router. I just get a nice little 45-degree bit in there. And then what I'll do is come back and, since these are so thin, you don't want to use contact adhesive on this because they just won't, it really just won't stick. The contact adhesive works better in larger surface areas. The smaller surface areas, the less successful that's going to be. So what I'll do is I'll cut small strips that overhang on each side of the piece and just super glue those into place. Again, super glue is our best friend because it fills all the little nooks and crannies and the joints and gaps and everything like that, right? So, and then just kind of cut that, trim that, sand that all smooth. Do that on every single surface here. So, you got 3 here, you've got 3 here, 3 here, so on and so forth. And just keep going on until you get that nice smooth surface. And that's how you laminate one of these things. Now, Chris, hit up my website, because I do have kind of a full tutorial with pictures and everything, and links and all that good stuff, to, you know, pretty much everything that you need. So go hit that up. It's on www.shadowmecha.com. So very good question. And that it sells the look of everything, right? It sells the look. Dave Hurt says, thought about putting a 45-degree bevel on those pieces for the joint. Can probably get away with not having to fill if you do that. Sorry, Dave. I am lost. I know you asked that like 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. My bad. Let's see. William Williams says, Tim has a tutorial on his website for preparing bases. Yes, that is true. That is very, very true. Let's see. Woody over there in the Mecha Army Facebook group has a question.
We have a question.
Yeah. He says, what do you use super glue for filling gaps in areas with a lot of detail? P.S. My daughter Abby says your streams are awesome. Aw, thank you, Abby. I appreciate that. You know, you just got to be really, really careful with it. The main thing with something like that is, you know, either like pinpoint that application of glue or be prepared to recreate those details. Yeah. You know, with what I do, if I need kind of pinpoint, you know, precision application, I'll use just like a little scrap piece of plastic here, and I will put the super glue just on a pallet, you know, and this is just like a little scrap piece of plastic, and you can see the amount of super glue on this thing, and it's just piled up over time. And I'll just put a drop on here and just kind of dip the, you know, a sharp corner into that, and then just apply it that way. There are tools, you know, little steel loops that you can get to pinpoint, to get pinpoint application with super glue and everything like that. But I just use a nice little piece of scrap plastic, so works for me, right? So, but yeah, that's about the best I can tell you there, Woody, because in high detail areas, and it's the same thing with with solvent-based glue. I mean, with any glue, really. Be prepared to either recreate those, rescribe those details, or find a contingency plan and either eliminate those details or replace them with something else. So, yeah, it's one of those things in scale modeling, right? Ranger Chris says, took a look, and interesting technique, was thinking that it was some kind of thermoplastic. Nope. It's just all plastic sheet. Now, the one thing that I would say is the place where I get my plastic sheet from, my big sheets of plastic, McMaster Carr, they actually do sell crazy thick plastic sheets. I think up to like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch thick. If you were so inclined, you could use that for a model base, but it's probably going to be more expensive in the long run and probably less stable. Because what I'm going to do in terms of connecting these two, this is the top portion, and so here's the bottoms. I'm going to go ahead and once I get this all laminated and everything, I am going to put in threaded inserts, right, into here, drill corresponding holes in the other one, and use kind of 2-inch long 1/4-20 screws, or bolts actually. And it's the same way I have the airdrop base excuse me, held together. If you guys have ever seen me put that together, you'll know that thing is 100% just rock solid. So that's what I'm going to do with this, and it also makes it very, 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 very easy to break down and stuff too. So, yeah. Chris Pab says, "Hey, what's up, Pabby?" William Welp says, "Tim, make more of those sanding blocks, brand them, and then sell them for 10 a pop." Nah. Trust me, there's no return on that investment. Let's see. Chris Degger says the question might have been a link to a picture. Oh yeah, from Stanley. Yeah. Let's see. Ruslan, Bill, what's going on, Bill? Chris Pabs, another late night. Yeah. All right. Here's Stanley. Okay. Let's get him loaded back up with this.
We have a question.
Here we go. He says, I find when I make a clean paint scheme on a Gunpla, new, factory fresh, it often seems incomplete without weathering, as if I only put base colors on. How can I change that? How do I make it interesting? So there's a few things that you could do, Stanley. And the biggest thing, at least for me, are decals. And I'm not just saying that because of Mecha Decals. Mind you, I've always been a decal fiend, even before Mecha Decals. Because I think proper placement and proper sizing of, especially generalized warning decals really just brings the model to life. It gives it, gravitas, and it gives you that illusion of scale that we're all chasing, right? Especially when you're using smaller scale decals than what it really needs. And what I mean by that is, like, I will use 144 scale decals for a 1/100 scale model all day, every day, simply because they're much smaller. So again, it gives you that illusion of scale. And for those of you guys that have Mecha Decals, you'll probably notice that they even just they're scaled actually smaller than a lot of other decals, and that's precisely why, is because it gives you that better illusion of scale, right? Nobody wants these gigantic lettered little warning marks on there, right? They want them to be small, and they want them to look like they're actually, readable by humans, right? You don't want a billboard on the side of your gigantic mech, right? Now, mind you, some of the bigger decals are really, really cool, but they're scaled small, right? The type and everything is small. That's on purpose, right? So that's number one. Another thing that you can do, which I'm not particularly a fan of, but it can look really good, is pre-shading or post-shading, either way. And that adds a little bit more emphasis to lighting and things like that across your panels on your model, right? So those are two things that I would say to start with. Make sure, number one, especially if you're going clean, make sure that just everything is just superbly finished. You can't hide your mistakes with a clean build. Clean builds are definitely harder in that aspect to achieve success in, simply because there is no hiding mistakes, right? So those two methods definitely, if you're not panel lining, definitely do that as well, because that will bring shadows to your panels and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, those are the best things that I can say right now to try and get a little bit more emphasis to your model. Mind you, I don't weather a ton. The Hummingbird is completely clean. The Blue Destiny is completely clean. A few of my other ones are 100% clean, and they stand up, But it's because of the levels of details and complexity and stuff like that I went ahead and put into them, that just kind of gives it that illusion, right? And that's what, like I said, that's what we're ultimately chasing, is that illusion of scale. So try that. Let's see. Alex Andrews says, I'm just hoping to make it to 3 a.m. for the GBWC stream. Nice. Oh, and I want to show you. Let's give you a preview of tonight's stream, because this was another thing that I got done this weekend, which I'm very, very happy that it turned out well. But this guy right here, focus. There we go. This needs cleanup, obviously, because it's this. You can see this super glue all the way around the perimeter, but that came out really nicely. I haven't glued it down to this bit yet, but look at that. Super nice. Contoured perfectly. Centered pretty well. I'd say it's probably maybe a 0.5 millimeter off center at this point, but you can't really tell. But as an overall package, yeah, super happy with that. So I'll show that off a little bit more tonight, but that's your preview. There you go. Let's see. Manny, Mr. MechDeo, he's over there and on YouTube. He says, "Hey all, how's the Mecha Army?" Man, we're doing good. It's Monday, right? Let's see. Ruslam Bill says, Stanley, that is personal preference, but you might try using techniques to make it better for you. Appreciating highlighting. There you go. Filter, mixing, filters, mixing custom colors, and a host of others that can be used. Exactly. William says, first cup of coffee of the day completed. Nice. There's Terry. Mr. Gundam Yatham, he says, may I offer my high-grade Zeta Plus as an example of what you're asking about? It's a clean build, and I feel it looks complete to me. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Let's see. Chris Pab says, I'm a bit late. Is he building a base for the SD Unicorn too? Yeah, man. Come on now. Fun till June. Let's see. Sam L's over there on YouTube. He says he is talking about the base, adding a 45-degree miter to the ends of the base so you do not have to fill with epoxy putty. Oh, yeah. Well, it would have... See, that's the thing. I would have had to make marks and all that, and on my router, mind you, I don't have a very good router table. My router table sucks. So I'm lucky, honestly, if I can even get it to stay at the same height. It's so bad, like you don't even know. So bad. So rather than try and mark and stop at, at a specific distance from the back, just to keep that height, that height involved. I just ran through it. I can much easier reform that little gap with epoxy putty rather than dick around with my shitty router table. Honestly, it's an inherited router table from my father-in-law. It's a Skill brand, so it's just like pure crap. And like I said, the height adjustment on it is just for crap. It's so bad. It's just so bad. Anyway, Dave Hurt says, yeah, Sam got it. Between the two pieces of the base, he said you'll glue them together. Actually, I'm not going to glue them together. I'm going to bolt them together with threaded inserts. So yeah. But then you have the gap. If you cut it a 45-degree bevel on each piece, then it should line up. Yeah. Well, see that, and like I said, that's the thing. That's the taking apart of it all. That was kind of the thing. But definitely a good suggestion, right? Definitely a good suggestion. Bill Ruslam says you can use a stick/straight pin for pinpoint application of glue as well. Absolutely. Mikey Wines over there on YouTube or Facebook, he says Mech Army t-shirt is on the way. Yeah. Alex Andrews wants to know if Alexa is muted, and she is. Alexa. Whatever. Yeah, she's way muted. Let's see. Ranger Chris says, was curious as had not really looked at doing something like that for bases, and mainly a hardwood, rich stains, more minimalist look when it comes to bases. Yeah. So the big thing is with laminating bases and stuff like that, you can paint them. Just like a model. Prime, paint, sand, decal, panel line, scribing, everything. You can do all of that when you laminate your bases in plastic sheet like that. So that's kind of why I do it, right? Because I never would have gotten the finish on, especially on airdrop, with just raw MDF. Even sanded and coated in, super glue. I mean, and that right there would have been expensive just because of the amount of super glue that I would have had to use. Plastic is a much more reasonable option in terms of expenses. So that's kind of why I do it the way I do it. One, to save. Two, to get that, nice flat finish on there so I can paint it and all that good stuff. So yeah, a lot of people do, just like wooden bases, blocks, or what have you. I kind of like this look because it's more kind of like, it's different, it's different. So, yeah. Let's see. There she is. Tex Merquise, Miss Armida. She's waving hi. Let's see. Chris Pabs. Wow, there's a lot of chat to catch up on. You guys are talking a storm today, aren't you? Chris Pabs says, as a clean builder, color separation, decals, detail up parts, and contrast help with clean build completion. Yeah. He says, check out my builds. I don't think they look incomplete. True. William Wilms says, use Mecha Decals this weekend, and they went on smoothly. As they should. Alex Andrews says, don't weather looks at Aussie. Yeah, the Aussie was my first foray into chipping and all of that good stuff. So, live and learn. Wilson says, that's why, he's over there on Facebook, he says, that's why I'm into weathering. I can't do clean builds, hiding power of chippings, dirts, etc. LOL. Hey, man, but you're really freaking good at weathering, though, Wilson. That's the thing. Tashi's over there on YouTube. They say, got a Mecha Decal sheet from USA Gundam for Christmas. Damn near couldn't tell what it was because the text was so small. Yeah. Trust me. Use a magnifying glass and you'll be able to read every single word, though. That's the beauty of them. Alex Andrews says, that looks epic, Tim, for a NAF batch of resin that turned out well. Yeah, the shield and everything, right? William Williams says, I agree with Tashi. I had to keep zooming in with my camera to read the writing. That's the intent. Man. Let's see. Brandon's got a question. He said, why did you do a resin cast cross instead of the original? Great question, Brandon. I went ahead and made a simple one-part dump mold for the cross here, mainly because when I thought about it, it would have been easier to make the mold and cast it in resin and then pull it just a little bit early from the pressure pot when the resin was still a little soft, and let that completely cure to the contour of the shield. And yeah, it was very easy. Very, very easy. And now, if I ever need one of those crosses, I have a mold, right? So that's why. So yeah, it was way easier to do it that way than to try to heat that cross evenly and try not to break it. Because if I was to try with the plastic one, I got one shot. That's it. With the resin, I have an infinite amount because I can just buy more resin and make more copies of it. So it just seemed more efficient that way. So yeah, good question. Zero Kai, Mr. Nathan, he's over there on YouTube. He's checking in saying, hey, what's going on, Nathan? Ranger Chris is over there on YouTube as well. He says, also something you might consider for next time, try attaching the base and the back together before doing the routering. Yeah, but the thing is you would get like this round over weirdness in the corner of that, and I want that to be straight beveled down. So it'll make more sense when I put it all together. It's something I had to do on the airdrop base as well, because I had to fill in some gaps right above the upper arm assembly, and it's the same process. So trust me, it's actually pretty simple to do. I'm not overly worried about it. Commissar Stanley's got another question. Let's load up that button here. Here we go. He says, a while ago I tried water slide decals and covered it with top coat. It seemed good, but a few months later it bubbled and fell off. Even though I didn't mess with it, what went wrong? Interesting. It bubbled off a few months later. My only thought is that either, well, I have two thoughts. One, there was still moisture underneath those decals when you top coated them, which could be the case. Two, there was some weird reaction that took time to fester. The first one is probably, in my estimation, more probable. When dealing with water slide decals, you have to give them time to fully dry before you put on any top coat on that. And I'm talking like 24 hours at least, right? I bought a food dehydrator specifically for drying out decals and everything. And I cranked that thing to about 125 temperature, 125 Fahrenheit, and put in all my model pieces, and I let that cook essentially for 24 hours straight. If I was just to let them out, let them be, in just plain air, I'd probably leave them for a couple days at very least, just to make sure all of that moisture is completely dehydrated and evaporated from the surface and even underneath part. That's the crucial part, because that's where you get the the silvering and stuff like that, right? And that's when air is trapped underneath. But if moisture is trapped underneath, you can kind of run into problems too. So if you're just letting it sit out in the air, leave them sit for 2 days. Just seriously. But I think that might be why. It's hard to tell, Stanley, but that's my best guess at this point, right? Let's see. Jason PS3 is over there on YouTube as well. He's got a question.
We have a question.
He says, when it comes to resin kits, what do you use to repair little cracks, chips, or broken resin pieces? Oh, boom. Old Faithful, right? Super glue. Super glue is the stuff, man. It's like the Swiss Army knife of adhesives, no lie, because you can use it to adhere broken resin pieces, fill in cracks, all that stuff. That's the magic sauce. So, super glue, yeah. Chris Pab says to Stanley, use a mark setter and softer to make sure there are no air bubbles underneath your decal. Then make sure all of your decals are dry before final clear coat. Exactly. Chris Pab says, super glue is a great filler when it comes to resin. Yes. Alex Andrews, I was really expecting her to sass you back then. I don't. Oh. Tex. For what, though? Maybe it wasn't me. I don't know. Anyway, Tashi's got another question over there on YouTube.
We have a question.
They say, how do you go about sanding round parts? What would be a recommended tool or technique? Because I got Zaku's in my future, and at least one of them is getting a full paint job. So for curved pieces, it's actually really simple. You can use sanding sponges, but just a regular piece of sandpaper, because with your finger is obviously a little spongy and soft and everything. That will conform to the curved surfaces really, really well. So Yeah, that's all I do. I don't use sanding sponges. I think they're a waste of money, to be quite honest with you. But, yeah, I just use little bits of sandpaper. That's it. Old school. Simple. Easy. Ricky Paul Carlson's over there on YouTube. He says, friggin' a-hole. My Alexas went off. Now I got to roll around the house and mute that. It's funny he says friggin' a-hole is because whenever I have to refer to Alexa and she's not muted, I call her a-hole. Yeah, just just add it to the list on a-hole. Just funny. Chris Pab says hobby sanding sponges is a good start for rounded pieces. William Wilms says sanding sponges, all that good stuff. Yeah, I just don't even bother. I don't even bother. Anyway, let's see. Ranger Chris says best bet for sanding curved surfaces is the thinner kind of sanding sponge. I mean, different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tell you my way is the right way. It's just one way. Fudabe always says, late to this party, but LOL. What's going on, man? Alexander says, Tim, you recovered from Mechanism on Friday? Oh, absolutely. I was recovered pretty much in the after show. So, yeah, and if you guys missed Mechanism, go watch it. It was a fun time. Bill, Mr. Ruslam says, if you don't have sanding sponges, you can try gluing some sandpaper to the inside of a large plastic spoon to use that. Be careful to keep the curves correct either way. Yeah. I mean, I would probably avoid rigid surfaces like that because you want it to follow the contour of the curve. You know, that's the most important thing. So, yeah, I try to, like I said, just this and, shit. This is an extreme example, but, just keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. You're good to go. Easy. Wilson Alaneo's over there on YouTube or Facebook, and he says, if you top coat right away after putting the water slide on, it will peel off. Moisture. Yeah, that moisture. Tech says, +1 for that glue. Super glue. Yeah. Ruslam, for the decal issue, another possibility is the paint had not finished curing when the decal was applied. Fumes from curing paint can get trapped underneath the decals. That's actually a good thought. I had not thought of that, Bill. But yeah, definitely, especially if you're using like a longer curing type of paint. Water-based or alcohol acrylics like Vallejo, Tamiya, respectively, or even worse, enamels. Enamels, for those of you guys that don't know, enamel paint takes an incredibly long time to fully cure. Yes, they will be dry to the touch in probably about 24 to 48 hours, but they take weeks. Yes, weeks to fully cure. Not days, not a week, several weeks, like 3 weeks or a month to fully reach their full cureness, hardness, whatever it is. Enamel's taken an immensely long time to fully cure. So keep that in mind. Lacquers, on the other hand, 10-15 minutes. Let's see. Tex Marquise Armidas, she says, and baking soda. Oh, with the super glue. Yeah. For the larger kind of gaps and stuff like that. Or to, secure a piece, when you need high strength. The baking soda, baby powder, all those mix-ins, that increases the strength of that super glue tremendously. So, yeah. Manny says, hey, Tim, did you get a chance to check your Instagram DM? I have not, Manny. Let me take a looky look here just right quick while I'm... Oh, damn phone. Open up. There we go. While I'm here and while I remember it, let's see. And it's refreshing. Anyway, let's see. But Manny, I will definitely check it here in just a few seconds. Alex Andrews says, I was referring to Alexa when you were testing it. It was off. Oh, yeah. Terry T, I finally ran out of BSI CA glue. I looked in Amazon to have it shipped, but it says the delivery time is a month since it's non-essential item. Ugh. It's terrible. Terry, Loctite, Ultra Liquid Control from Home Depot. That's what I used to use until I found BSI. It's almost as good. So, yeah, if you're in a pinch, Loctite Ultra Liquid Control. I don't think I have a bottle of it around anymore. No, I don't. Sorry. But it's in one of those little squeezy side bottles and stuff like that. And I think it has like a red label on it, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Loctite, look for the Ultra Liquid Control. That's the stuff. The gels and the other ones are poo-poo. Ultra Liquid Control. Yeah. Let's see. Tashi says, I appreciate the answers, guys. Gonna have to grab a couple. There you go. Ruslam says, Tex or Alexa both have some sass for Tim because of last week. Really, really. Resting Tex face. Hey now. Shots fired. Speaking of which, Tex says, fun is a word. It's true. That is a word in the English vocabulary. Manny says, you didn't enjoy yourself, Tex. She says, if I had $1. Yeah, well. Jokes aside, always. Aw. Manny says, I'd buy that for $1. You guys are terrible. She says, Ultra Gel has the blue side / lid process of elimination. There you go. Yeah, exactly. So you want the good stuff, the one with the little red label on the front. Yeah. So, cheers. All right. So now that we've spent like an hour answering questions. Oh, we got one more here. Huh? Commissar Stanley says, could I apply decals and not worry about them falling off without softer or setter as long as I allow them to dry properly? You can, yes. Because there is a small amount of adhesive glue, if you will, on all water slide decals. That's what makes them stick to the sheet that's activated by water. So that you can, you're going to get better results with setter at very least. Like Microset, Microsol, that's what I use. Mr. Hobby makes a setter and softening solution. But I just use Microset and Microsol. So, but yeah, I mean, technically you can, because that's what people did for decades before setting and softening solutions, were a thing. So yeah, you absolutely can, but you're going to get better results with the setter and softer. Pabby says, yes, just make sure there's no air underneath. Yeah, that's the big thing. He says use a Q-tip to squeeze out all the excess liquid and air. Either that, a Q-tip, or cotton bud for those of you outside the U.S. I normally use like a makeup sponge, like those little triangular ones, and I've gotten really, really great results out of that, because I find that the Q-tip / cotton bud method can potentially leave little pieces of lint on the surface or even under the decals, which is not ideal. Using the sponges, on the other hand, leaves no lint. Everything very, very clean. Same thing when it comes to cleaning up panel lines. I use kind of both. Bill says, Stanley, what paint do you use? Yeah, that's probably a good question to ask, Stanley. Yeah. Pab says, if you're using acrylic, just be careful when you're using Mr. Mark Setter and Softer, notorious for eating acrylics for dinner. Oof. Yeah. Miss Armida. Tex Marquise. She says, finally, A secondary use for my beauty blender sponge. Yeah, well. It's good for recycling, right? There you go. Stanley says, I use Citadel acrylics mostly. Okay. So, Citadel, great for minis and blending and all that. Probably not the most durable of paints in the world. I think we could probably all agree. Especially on moving parts and stuff like that. So, that very well could be part of the issue. Just saying. Chris Degger over there on YouTube's got a question.
We have a question.
Hey, is it paint clear coat then decal, or paint decal then clear coat? So Chris, it's paint all of your colors, high gloss clear coat that acts as your base for panel lining and for decals. I like to do panel lines first, get those out of the way, get cleaned up, the whole 9 yards, then lay down decals, and then after that, you're finished clear coat, top coat of choice. So that's kind of my process. Not everybody follows that. I get it, but that's what works for me. And that helps me kind of, disappear those edges on water slide decals too. So, yeah. Bill says, Citadel acrylics you want to let cure for a week before applying decals. Whew. Chris Pab says, Microset and Microsaw works fine with acrylic. There you go. Random Choppy over there on YouTube. Hi, everyone. What's going on? Chris Pab says, paint, gloss clear, panel line decal, final clear coat. Yeah, so I do the same thing as Chris. Let's see. Charles Dodge says, most water-based acrylics need several days of curing. Game Workshop paints, horrible stuff even for minis. Needs way too much thinning to be useful, meaning for decals even longer of curing. Ugh. Man. I don't know, man. Like, you guys coming over from, like, Warhammer and mini painting and every stuff, it feels like you gotta completely switch your techniques over, right? Like the kinds of paints, the way that you're used to things, the whole 9 yards, because it just, that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting from a lot of the guys that kind of came over from that side into Gunpla modeling. And it's probably a tough transition, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you're basically throwing out years of knowledge to learn a completely new skill set that you would think the same things apply to, right? Nah. The moving parts are a bitch. And the decals and all the stuff that we use on this side of things, I can imagine it being a tough transition, but hey, you guys are asking questions. That's the good thing, right? That's the good thing. So, all right. Anywho, let's finally get to work here, shall we? Yeah. All right. So here are the pieces that we're going to be working on here right now. This piece is already done. Like we said before, we got some scribe lines in here and stuff like that. We got this. I really like the look of this here. Whoops. And once we get this popped onto the leg, you can kind of see the full package here, right? That kind of looks nice. Now, don't mind this mess down here, because that's kind of a work in progress, right? But mind this stuff here, right? Because that all looks really, really good there. It all ties in very nicely with the aesthetic that we're going for, right? So we'll get this piece pulled back off. We'll get that leg back over there. And one of the other things that I forgot to mention with this piece particularly is that the back is completely hollow. Before, after, right? Went ahead and sheeted that all up with just thin plastic sheet, and now it's one solid piece, right? So that's kind of one of the other things that I was able to get accomplished this weekend. And when this is popped on, there's still a little bit of a gap right there, but when it's popped onto the leg, this comes right up to the leg piece, and it's 100% filled. So that's what we're going to be starting on here right now, right? And what I want to get done is this bottom piece, this long piece here with that big 1mm scribe line in it. That's kind of the goal for today, right? And because it is a shorter, because it's a wider chisel, right? It's going to take us a bit of time to get this scribe line set in, right? There we go. That's the one we want to use. So what we did is we came up about 5mm from break point. Yep. And that's where we kind of made our ending point, right? So from this angle break right here up 5mm onto the piece, that's essentially where we're going with this, right? So let's see if I can get this all held with one hand while I try to mark it with the pencil. I probably won't be successful, but we'll give it the good old college try, right? Ah, son of a bitch. How did I do this before? I don't even know. All right, we'll steady it like that. Here we go. Hey. Right there. All right. So that's our 5mm, right? Money. Okay. So now we have basically a little less than a 1mm scribing jig here, right? And this is just one that I made for some other reason that actually just happened to work on here, right? So that's what we're going to be using. Let's see here. Let's get caught up just real quick, because I saw Craig come in. Mr. Colin, where do we leave off? Charles Dodge says, it is a big change. If you're entirely hand brushing minis, it's even harder. Yeah, at least airbrushed acrylics look okay on Gunpla. That's true, yeah. There he is. Colin Hunt, Mr. Hi, Craig. He says, hey, what's up, everyone? Brandon says, I've been tempted to grab a 3mm BMC for some carving and some plastic shaping. Yeah, I mean, I don't use it a lot, but it's good for that type of thing. Hi, Craig. Mr. Collins says, Tim, how are you finding working out without your gym being open? $64 million question, yeah? It's tough, man. You got to get creative. I've got a few bands. I've got a few dumbbells here at the house. Not heavy, but a lot of body weight. And what I've kind of transitioned to is higher reps, or switching angles to make that weight feel heavier, right? So obviously this is not a workout show, so we're not going to be delving into that, but those are just some of the things that I've had to do to try and keep the muscle mass. You know, it's tough. It's tough. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Bill says, Brandon, I would go with a less expensive option. The chances of chipping or breaking will be higher, especially as you first experiment with it. To a point, Bill. Yeah, to a point. He's talking about this big old 3mm hunker right here, right? And this thing is substantial. This big old piece of tungsten is beefy, right? Because I mean, look at that. That's at least 1/8 of an inch thick. And that's, yeah, that's a big old chisel. Chances of you breaking or chipping something like that, probably a lot lesser than, say, your smaller chisels. Just saying. But to a point, I do agree with Bill. Yeah. Go with one of these El Cheapo wave ones if you can get them, or if you can find them cheap, right? Like this piece of crap. I'm so glad I didn't spend a lot of money on these, because these are just terrible. These are the worst chisels I've ever freaking worked with in my life. Number one, it's round bar. And number two, it's ground on both sides. And the problem that you run into is that the blade isn't even square. Like, the top is not square. Just, like, I know, this was only $8. But still, how can you not have a square chisel blade on your chisel? Wave. Just asinine. Let's see. Here's Mikkel. He says, "Hey Tim, what up, Mikkel?" That's for Mikkel. That's an inside joke, you guys, if you don't watch Mechanism. Brandon says, "I'm finding the 3mm around 22 to 25, so not bad in price." Yeah, and honestly, the BMC 3mm chisel is very, especially when you get it, very, very, very sharp, right? So, Brandon, I mean, do what you're gonna do. Now, nope, that's the wrong one. See, I got this one. This is the .60, right? And I pulled this by accident because the 1mm is in the same color handle. Whoops. But we're gonna use this big boy. 1mm. Yeah. And when I say big boy, yeah, that's a big chisel, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. Mikkel says, "I got you, Tim. I'll message you later, brother." Good looking, Mikkel. Good looking now. All right. So here we go. And what we're going to do is we're just going to run this right down the middle here. Thankfully, this particular scribing jig perfectly centers this 1mm onto this piece. A true 1mm scribing jig would not have done the same thing. It would have been over to one side more. But since this is just a hair smaller than 1mm, it gets it dead center perfect. Just like that. Right there. Just solid, right? So, all right. Once more into the breech. Same technique for this 1mm. Let the chisel do the work. Go very, very light in the beginning. And just drag out that plastic. Now, one thing with these bigger chisels that you have to be aware of and that you have to keep in mind is that they can waver in level, right? Meaning you can very easily start to dig into one side and get one side of your scribe deeper than the other, right? So you want to try and make sure you keep this chisel as perpendicular to the piece as you possibly can. Not as much of a problem with thinner chisels, but with these big ones, it's definitely something that you have to be aware of when you start to carve a line out. Okay, so there's the beginning of that. Nice and centered, looking good. Now we're just going to wrap it around these other 3 sides here. And then what we're going to do is come back and we're actually going to use the chisel as a true chisel and smooth out the bottom of this line, because my 1mm chisel is not completely flat. This is one of my older chisels, so it has seen better days. And I do not have a proper like a diamond plate or something like that to where I can sharpen it. Shit. So I gotta make do kind of with what I got, unfortunately, right now. So luckily I don't use this 1mm all that often, but I also have a 1.2 and a 1.5 to fall back on if I need something super wide. Okay. All right. So we're looking pretty good so far. Yeah, there's definitely a level imbalance, especially on this first one, in which we're gonna go back and we'll clean up. Not a big deal. Not a big deal right now. And I'll show you kind of what I mean here in a second. But let's first get this this small one, this small line chiseled in here. Yeah. And for this one, I'm just basically just nibbling away at the surface. Not using a ton of pressure, but just enough to scrape that plastic off of there, right? And so there we go. We've got that initial line in there, right? Now, it's not very deep compared to this guy, and you can see just the difference of the shadows, right? This one is much deeper and much cleaner than this one is. And I can tell just simply by the angle breaks inside of the scribe line that these surfaces are not completely flat and level, right? So we'll come back here and apply a little bit more pressure to this pass than the first one, because we've already got the line established. We're just reinforcing it at this point. And I'm going to focus a little bit more down here because I can see kind of a fall off in pressure at the end of this. And the easy way to tell that is that inside the groove here, it started to cup up, right? It started to gradually curve in an upward fashion, and that means that on that end stroke there, I was kind of letting up on the pressure. That's basically what that illustrates, right? And that'll happen sometimes, and it's not necessarily the amount of pressure that you're using. It sometimes could just be the density of the plastic. It could be the direction that you're pulling the line in, etc., etc. So not a big deal. All right, so now that we've got these lines kind of on the deeper side, now we're going to go in and really flatten these things out and clean this up. So we're actually going to push and use this chisel as a true chisel, right? We're going to push into the plastic and just cleave off just a little layer. And what that's going to do is that's going to clean up any uneven, strokes that the chisel might have left, any tracks or marks or anything that, you know, if you have imperfections in your in the tip of your blade on this chisel, the whole 9 yards. All of that will be cleaned up with this pass. And like I said, this being one of my oldest chisels, the blade is not the cleanest at this point. So it does have a little kind of a little bit of dips and valleys in the blade. So it's just, you know, one of those things, and it leaves marks. It leaves a trail on the plastic when I make lines with this thing. That's why I don't particularly use 1mm all that often. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go back in the other direction here because this plastic is a little brittle right where we chiseled a little bit. So we're going to smooth that down a little bit. Not a big deal there. Clean enough. We're going to flip this over and use the other side here. That way I can go at a higher angle when I push into the plastic. Not as efficient. You don't get as much pressure when you reverse your chisel. And what I mean by reversing the chisel, usually you push in this way with the beveled edge on top. Reversing it means you flip it over and you come in at a higher angle, right? Kind of like this. The problem with this particular angle is that you don't get nearly as much pressure along the blade. It's just inherent to the position, that's all. Evening up some of that, and let's see, just need to even up the back end of this right here because we're going to be laying that small bit of plastic in here, so we need this section right here to be as level as we can possibly make it. Okay, that looks pretty dang good. All right, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. All right, so we're done with this big boy. We can put him away right there in the bin. 434, we got plenty of time. Great, 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 great. All right, so we're done with the scribing jig. We can put this over to the side as well. We're not going to need that anymore. What we do need is a 1x1mm piece of styrene strip here, or rod, whatever you want to call it. Now, this fits just, it fits very, very nice and snug right there into that groove. Really nicely. And we've got a decent amount of height still left for it to, you know, protrude and kind of give you a bit of level difference there, right? So now, what I need to do, this I think was 3mm? 3, yep, on the money. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to cut in the bevel on one side. So we're going to use our Alpha chisel blade here. Focus. Our Alpha chisel blade, and we're going to come in at an angle. Doesn't really matter what angle it is. We're going to come in at an angle. Pop that right down there. Put our strip off to the side. And that looks pretty good. We just need to clean up the little bit of overhang on this. And there we go. We've got a nice beveled edge there, right? And that's going to fit in real nice. Now, the tricky part is to get the other beveled edge, right? So what we're going to need to do is get this thing measured here. Right there. And now, the original one is 3 millimeters. So we're going to go right there. That's going to be our end point, and then we cut in there, and now let's hope we cut straight. Not quite straight, so we'll need to clean that up just a bit. Just a bit. So working with such a small piece, we're going to hold this down with our little bamboo skewer just to apply top pressure, and then we're going to come in and we're going to cleave off just a little bit. Just a little bit of plastic at an angle there. And it just shot across the room, and we're not going to find that ever again. Just, you know, one of those things with working with small pieces like this. One of those things. But luckily we got this little offcut right here that we can actually use. So we'll cut that side in first, and then we're going to eyeball this. I'm going to go right about there. Now let's see how we did in terms of measuring. It's a bit short. We're going to need to cut another one. Alright. Let's do this another way. Cut in from the top. Not quite square. Let's get our technique down. Getting there, getting there, getting there. We need to angle it just a little bit more. There we go. Yeah. See, that's nice and square. That's much better. F. Yeah. Yeah, well, it happens, right? It happens. Teeny tiny pieces like that. Y'all don't know how many of those little shit pieces that I've lost over the years. So many. So many. All right, so let's do the proper thing and let's measure rather than try to eyeball it here. Right there. Alright, let's see if this is square. Nope, not even close. Not even a little bit. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is actually hold this with my finger, well, fingernail. Cleave off that side. That looks good. Alright. Try to get this turned to its side without launching it into space. That is 3mm on the money. Perfect. Perfect. All right, so now we've got our little piece. What we need to do is we need to get our little glue palette here. Pop a little drop of super glue on there. And now we get our super duper little fine tweezers. Turn this guy over. Come on, little man. There we go. Grab that with the tweezers ever so gently. Right into the super glue, and then right into the groove. And there, where's the other piece? There it is. There we are. And there we have a matching set. Not too bad. Not too bad. I like it. I dig it. With it, as Julio would say. All right, let's get caught up real quick. Let's see. All right, so Commissar Stanley says, so in general, since I'll be hand painting with Citadel acrylics, let's let the paint cure for 5 days, then apply decals and allow to dry for 2 days, then top coat. Sounds like a solid plan to me. Yeah. Brandon wants to know if Julio's here. Yeah. Rusham says Citadel paint cure for 7 days, clear coat, let it cure, panel line and decal. Let dry for 2 to 3 days, top coat. Whew. Yeah, that's a process right there. That's a process. Mikkel says, get a large food dehydrator to cut down on the cure time for acrylic paints. Yeah, no, I agree. It's a good way to go, but there's a monetary investment in that, right? Stanley says, how long does it take for Mr. Super Clear flat to cure? Mr. Super Clear, about 15 minutes. Yeah, not long at all because it's lacquer, but that's the thing. You got to be super careful applying a lacquer over top of an acrylic like that, like a water-based acrylic, or it'll just like that and crinkle your paint and it'll make it look like terrible. Mikkel says 10 minutes, dries in seconds after you lay it. Yeah, I'd give it 15 just to be on the safe side. Chris Pab says, Mr. Clear Flat takes about 20 minutes to dry to the touch, overnight to fully cure. He says humidity and temperatures are factors. True. Mr. Bill says, Stanley, you don't want to clear coat with a flatser used for top coat. True. Clear coat should always be gloss. You can top coat with flat satin gloss or whatever after that. Right. Stanley, go to ChowderMecha.com. Under the tutorial section, you'll find my full workflow. It's a step-by-step process. It's in PDF form. You can download it and you can follow all the same things that I do. And I follow that like religiously every single step of the way. It might help. Let's see. Stanley says, thanks a whole bunch. Man, that's what we're here for, right? Alex Andrews says, how can you tell it's brittle just by the feel of how the chisel is running over it? No, actually, and it would have been impossible to even see on camera. But there was a part where the plastic more ripped off of itself than sheared off and cut in a small sheet, right? So that tells me that particular little part was brittle. When you see that ripping, that kind of nasty, almost like torn paper look, that's when you know that little bit of plastic is brittle. And it could be anything. It could be from being heated unevenly. It could be lack of mixing for just that little bit of the styrene or anything. It could be a whole bunch of different factors. But it doesn't happen a lot, just sometimes. Just sometimes. Stanley says, is it okay to apply a decal over Mr. Super Clear Flat, or does it have to be gloss? Always, I would say always gloss. Some people will say, yeah, you can lay it down on a flat coat and just, put solvent over top of that and you're good. I don't buy it. I'm not into that. I'm not willing to take a chance on that. So, yeah. Let's see. Chris Pabs, yeah, after Armida said F, Chris Pabs says F for that piece, never to be found again. Yeah. Fudabe always says, so do not use that flight mod. Gotcha. That's funny. Bill says, I guess you could technically clear with flat and then wet sand it, but that would be far more work than it's worth. That is very true. Manny MacDio says, okay, I'm back. Had a long safety meeting at work. Oof. Rushlam Bill says, stay safe, Manny. Them zombies are getting rambunctious, all cooped up. Dude, you have no idea. Persistent Turtle, Mr. Lucas, he's over there. Happy Mecha Monday. What's up, Lucas? Brandon, 5269 over there says, anyone ever mix Mr. Leveling Thinner and Tamiya Clear? Yeah, you absolutely can. Yeah. I've never tried it, but you should be able to with zero issues. Because Tamiya is all alcohol based, so it should be fine. Bill says, not I, Brandon, but sounds like something Tim would have tried. Yeah, I've never actually tried it with Tamiya Clear. Actually, no, I take that back. Actually, no, I never did. Sorry. Never tried it. But, like I said, since it's all alcohol-based, you'll be perfectly fine. And even if it's the lacquer-based Tamiya stuff, you'll be fine because the Tamiya lacquers mix perfectly well with Mr. Leveling Thinner from what I've been told and seen and evidenced on videos and stuff like that. So, yeah, you should be fine. He says, yeah, I've used it with regular Tamiya paint, but I have not done with clear yet. Yeah, I mean, if it's a clear color or even a clear, just a clear in one of the jars, it's still alcohol-based and you'll still be perfectly fine. Just the fact that it's clear doesn't really make a whole shit of difference. So, yeah, you'll be perfectly fine if it comes in those jars. Even if it comes in the cans, I think you'll be perfectly fine because I've mixed a Tamiya. It was a clear paint in a spray can, and I mixed that with Tamiya, or mixed that with Mr. Leveling Thinner, and it was perfectly fine. So the clears, I don't think would even have any sorts of issues. So yeah, you should be fine. Manny's got a question, and technically Brandon had a question, but I didn't hit the button. Manny says, what's the ratio with Mr. Leveling Thinner to Tamiya, Mr. Color, AK, and Ammo by MiG? Ha 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 ha. Great question, Manny, and let me get hydrated before I go into that. So, this is the thing, you guys. I'm actually going to switch to camera 1 for this, too. Do I have plastic in my hair? I think so. Bad news. There's no magic ratio. It doesn't exist. Because every single color, not brand, but color of paint has different ratios of binder to pigment, right? And you basically have to mix those on a one-off type of scenario. Because take the color white, for instance, especially Tamiya white. Any white for that matter. But Tamiya white is the most notorious color out there. Tamiya white is probably one of the hardest colors to airbrush with because it dries out super quickly. It goes on dusty, or it'll spider web real easy on you and all that, and it's just a pain in the ass. That's because it needs more thinner than most. mixing it with Mr. Leveling Thinner down to a milky consistency, or slightly less than a milky consistency, like skim milk maybe. That's the sweet spot for all paints. If you can get that mix down to about skim milk or regular milk, that's your sweet spot. That's when you're good to go, right? Chris Pab says, F for that plastic in Tim's hair. That will never be seen again. I hope not. Shit. But anyway, yes, you need to do it on an individual paint color basis for every color. Some people will say, oh, start with 1-to-1. No. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. I won't tell you my way is the right way, but I will tell you when it's the wrong way, and that's the wrong way. So yes, you want to start off by mixing less thinner to paint, because you can always sneak up on the thinner. You can always add a little bit more. It's harder to take it out, right? A lot harder. So you need to mix it on a per color basis. Best thing I can tell you. There's no magic ratio. People have tried. It's always on an individual color basis. Always, always, always. Your darker colors are going to need less thinner. Your lighter colors in general will need more thinner. As just a general rule of thumb. But that's not always the case. There have been some, especially Mr. Color, lighter colors that I have not had to mix a ton of thinner in with them. Especially like the lighter browns and the sand colors and the tans and khakis and kind of the cream colors and stuff like that. Those, for some strange reason, don't need a whole lot of thinner. You get it down to a milky consistency, you're good. You're good. But, yeah. And look at that. Gumpa Uruguay, Mr. Javier says, I can vouch for that. I hate, in capital letters, Tamiya X1. That's their color code for white. So, yeah. You just gotta sneak up on it, in terms of thinning. So, yeah. Brandon says, so sounds good. Thanks, Tim and Bill. Finally starting to wrap up this old Justa build. There you go. Bill says, Brandon, try it out on a clear spoon. Make sure it stays clear after curing, just to be safe. Best advice I can give you. Absolutely. I 100% concur with Bill. Always try it out on a spoon or something like that to test. Always, 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 no matter what. Bill says, F for respect. Nice. Brandon says, yes, I plan on trying it on spoons to make sure. Just don't want to stop and get any. Yeah. 01 Shields over there on YouTube. To me, a gloss white over all-clad white primer. Took a lot of coats to build up that gloss. Yeah, it's not easy. Not easy. Ruslam says, Manny, use an eyedropper to add thinner to the paint so you don't go too heavy on the thinner. Yeah. Rundus J22, he's over there on YouTube. He says, hey, Tim, I want to paint here, but I don't have a respirator here. And, well, they're probably not really available. Do I still need one if I paint outside? To a lesser extent, you can get away with it. Rundus, what I would do is this, though. You know how, you've seen online how people have made makeshift masks and stuff like that. Do that at very least. At very least. And then wet it. Like soak it and then wring it dry. Because what'll happen is any of those little paint particles and stuff like that will get trapped into the moisture and everything, and that moisture will grab onto them in the air. And then you'll be in much better shape than if you were just kind of raw dogging the paint. You know what I mean? So that's what I would do. But he has disposable ones. So those disposable ones would probably do good as well. Either way, better to err on the side of caution, I would say. But if you're outside, it's going to be dissipating much quicker. So, yeah. But, again, safe rather than sorry. Ranger Chris says, spoons, the best paint tool ever made. True. Persistent Turtle, Lucas says, shipping Brandon spoons. Oh, nice. Stanley says, could decals be applied straight on the paint, or does it need to be clear coat underneath? As long as it's gloss, like high gloss, because that's the main thing, Stanley. The gloss is much smoother. If you were to look at the surfaces kind of on a almost microscopic level, like under a microscope and stuff, you would see the gloss coat be extremely smooth and level, where the flat coat is rough and tumble, kind of, very ugly looking. The thing about decals is you want to get all of the air out from underneath the decals, because that's what creates silvering. That's what the silvering is. It's trapped air underneath the decals. If you lay that out down on gloss, that air has a much easier time escaping out from underneath of that decal than, say, on a rough texture. So that's the methodology behind laying decals on a gloss surface. As long as it's high gloss, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Persistent Turtle says, sorry, caps. Don't worry about it, dude. Runda says, yep, I also have some disposable ones. Okay. Charles Dodge says, check places like Harbor Freight for masks. Yeah, decent. Manny says, I say top coat, then decal. Yeah, I err on the side of caution. Just, yeah. Clear coat, top coat, whatever your terminology is for it, just make it gloss coat. You're good. Chris Pab says, LOL, raw dog in it. Hey, sometimes you just gotta go raw. Rundus, awesome, thanks for the tips. You're welcome, man. Fudiboy always says, I usually use Tamiya semi-gloss clear and thin it with Mr. Leveling Thinner. It does work all right. There we go. Ruslan Mr. Bill says, actually, masks are in stock and quick shipping on Amazon. Yeah, because they're considered essential right now. And then Bill just actually said that right after I said it. Or before, actually. Ranger Chris says, better to clear coat so as to give the paint a degree of protection and to ensure that you have a glossy surface. That's true as well. That's true as well. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive in terms of materials used, but you're going to get a better finish. Every single way that you can think of, you're going to get a better finish. So I would absolutely 100% gloss coat before panel lines and decals. 100%, hands down. Lucas Persistent Turtle says, eye protection is also necessary while painting. Not many people know paint absorbs through your eyes as well. Or just close your eyes and paint. Just, Stevie Wonder it. Was that mean? I don't think it was mean. I love Stevie Wonder, man. Ricky... Jesus. Ricky Paul Carlson says, light refraction and reflection. Cool science channel about finish coats. There you go. Commissar Stanley says, anyone know of any gloss coat stuff I can apply to a specific area with a brush? All the sprays and such are out of stock. I mean, you could try to brush on gloss, but I mean, you got to be real careful. And you got to have a really smooth brush too, so it's a little tough. But Bill, he's like his Amazon foo is high quality, so he says, let me check real quick. Let's see. Persistent Turtle said, I did safety auditing for a while. Scary stuff you learn. Tell me about it. I might have to try that when painting next time. Just go full on Stevie Wonder. Just it's worth a shot, right? Anyway, all right. All right, kids. 5 p.m. on the dot here. So that ends it for us. Let's get this this bad boy pulled in here. Rocking that. Here we go. Ricky Paul Carlson says you can be nasty and use pledge with 2 times more shine. Ugh. No, thank you. I have strong opinions when it comes to pledge and all that crap, but now's not the time. Anyway, you guys, if you want one of these kick-ass mecha hats, very, very nice, by the way, hit up www.shadowmecha.com, hit the store button up at the top. You will find this hat and many more on there, including shirts and prints of my work. And you can get a nice big poster printout of the workflow and the whole 9 yards on there. So go stock up while you can. If you are interested in any of the tools and materials that we hardly worked with here today, there's an Amazon link below here on Twitch and YouTube. That side if you're watching on Facebook. So go load up on all that stuff too. I get a bit of a commission based off the stuff that you buy, but it does not increase the cost for you. And it goes to help me out, goes to help out the stream and all of our endeavors moving forward, right? Last but not least, if you are in need of kits or paints or tools, accessories, Mecha Decals, sheets 1 and 2, those are both in stock and shipping now. Hit up our good friends right down here, USA Gundam Store. Adam and the fine folks will definitely have what you need. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Let's see. Hey, Zach Bleish, what's going on, man? He says, have a good evening, Tim. Dude, I'll be back here tonight at 10, so come on back for it, Zach. Zach Bleish, Mr. Galactic Toys up there in beautiful Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hope you guys are being safe up there, Zach. Ricky Paul Carlson says, so easy to trigger you, Tim. Just with this stupid stuff, man. That's all. Just with the stupid stuff. Rusam says, do an Amazon search for B601 on Amazon for it, Stanley. See, that Bill's Amazon foo is just like crazy. Charles Dodge says, we're just now getting old school mini painters to stop recommending pledge future to painters, mostly through all of the experienced painters going, no, it will literally ruin your mini. Let's see if we can get anybody to do that here on our side, because we still got tons of people recommending that crap here for Gunpla. Zach Bleish says, I will. Yeah, man, our stores are closed currently. Yeah, I mean, that's 97% of the nation's pretty much shut down, dude. But you guys are still shipping, though, right? Like, through the warehouse and all. Hopefully. Bill says, if you can't find it, hit me up on IG after the stream. Fuda always says, oh, really? I just bought something off of the eBay store, or are you still shipping things? Yeah, most of these places I think should still be able to ship out of warehouses and stuff, because, you know, that's kind of, I guess, essential commerce or so. Yeah, and Zach says, yes, still shipping. Excellent. That's good. That's good. At least people can still buy online and stuff like that. So, yeah, if you guys are in need as well, hit up Galactic Toys, man. Zach and the crew up there, they're good people. Real good people. Love those guys. Chris Pab says, man, I've been promoting the heck out of that real great new conversion on Saturday, Zach. Yeah, he was. Shipping is good, at least. There you go. Fuda always says, okay, I bought that Rockman X plated kit. Hey, there you go. Good stuff. And see, and this is the thing, guys. Like Galactic Toys, Zach, and Adam with USA Gundam Stores, these are small businesses. Small businesses. Support them. Support these guys. Hell yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And technically, I'm a small business too, so support me. Sorry, I was being dumb. Anyway, all right, you guys, I'll be back here tonight at 10, and we're going to work on the GBWC build, and we'll get caught up, and I'll show you a little bit more of the shield on the cross on the shield and everything like that, and kind of we'll start working on that stuff and have fun with that. So come on back tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard, about 5 hours from now, and I'll see you then. So until then, have a great rest of your day. Be safe out there, guys. Wash your hands, okay? And I'll see you tonight. Take care.